Alright, just when you thought it was safe to go back on YouTube, Phase 2 of Spring 2014 Solo Reviews. I'm huge movie fanatic Nate, if you couldn't tell by the description or the title of this video, coming at you to do a very world famous review request. There's a user on YouTube called The Cookie Monster 70, and he likes movies as well, and he requested me to review The Prowler. So I said, alright, I'll review it. So this movie, I'm obviously, if you know anything about, if you've seen any of my reviews, any of the Phase 1 2014 spring reviews, you know that I'm early 80s, I'm a slasher movie fan, like from the golden era, you know, early 80s of slasher movies. And this is a movie that I didn't grow up with or anything. I saw probably when I was when I was probably in my mid to late 20s, you know, because it's hard to see everything, you know. I picked this up. I picked up the Blue Underground. I believe it's Blue Underground. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. DVD at Half Price Books. Probably, I don't know, maybe '07, '08, '06, something like that. And I don't think I necessarily knew it was Joseph. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Zito. I think he might have said Zito in the commentary. So this is, of course, directed by Joseph Zito, who would end up going on to direct one of my favorite Friday 13th, and probably what I would consider the last great one, although I do like 6, and, you know, 5 is fun for just schlock crap, and 7's cool just for whatever. But Joseph Zito would go on to direct one of my favorite Friday 13th movies, which is, of course, Friday 13th Final Chapter. And sorry, Matt's not here to roll his eyes or shake his head, but we can imagine him shaking his head. So, in regards to me liking Friday 13th Final Chapter. So I hadn't seen this for a while, maybe a couple years, something like that, so I'm like, well, I'm not going to review it based on whatever feeble memory I had of it. So, you know, I've got a lot of time and nothing to do, so I'm like, we'll put it in and rewatch it. It's time to rewatch it anyway. So I put in the Prowler, and I'm like, cool, you know, I knew that it opened with the like the newsreel footage, which apparently is actually narrated by a guy who used to do those in real life, which is kind of cool. That's why it sounds so. Obviously the footage is real, but the guy they recorded as actually they did, I guess, for the movie itself, which you'd never even know. This is like 1981 or 82, don't quote me, but one of those years, one of those magical slasher years. And it starts off really cool, and the thing that you instantly become aware of when you watch the first scene is, unfortunately for me, this like when you watch the first dance scene and stuff, Zito mentioned in the commentary, like, I can't remember, weather or something. Weather screwed up some shooting, which shouldn't have impacted the interiors, but they weren't able to get all the shooting for like stuff because of weather or something like that. But what I become aware of at the beginning of the movie with the dance, you know, and stuff like that in the 40s or whenever it took place, is that, I don't know, the whole movie has this kind of thing where it's almost like, it's, you know, like amateurish at times, where it's just like, I don't know. You know, I'm a huge, obviously, slasher movie fan, but having rewatched this, you know, every time I watch this, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, I have great memories of it in my head as being like, oh yeah, and of course, let's not forget, of course, to mention Tom Savini is here, you know, a couple of years or a year after Friday 13th, and probably, I'm not sure, but maybe possibly his first time working with Joseph Zito. And Tom Savini's here to do some fantastic, amazing, you know, the same year as The Burning and all this kind of stuff, to do some fantastic and amazing gore effects, which is probably the highlight of this movie. And unfortunately, you know, by a huge degree, in the sense that there's really not too much else there except for the, you know, gore scenes. Now you have the famous, might be Farley Granger, I think it's Farley Granger, who was in at least 2 Hitchcock movies, the famous Rope, and then the famous Strangers on a Train. Is that it? Strangers on a Train? But so, you know, the famous Farley Granger, who has been in at least 2 Hitchcock movies that I know of, makes a brief appearance as this guy who, is he the sheriff? I think he's the sheriff. and he disappears, and I suppose this is old enough, over 30 years, so I can spoil it. If you don't want to be spoiled, just turn it off right around now. So he disappears and whatnot and stuff like that. So, first you have what I was getting at before is the opening scene that takes place. The whole premise is kind of cool, and it's very much like that incident thing, like Friday the 13th, that's, or something like that, or not Friday the 13th, but Prom Night or something like that, where it sets up the beginning, sets up the reason for why the killings go on for the rest of the movie, So it starts off with this letter, which is a cool premise, this Rosemary is like, oh, I tried to wait. This guy's off in war because war's got to have war, World War II, and it's this letter to it's a great way to start the movie. The soldier who's out over in war. Oh, I tried to wait, but I'm young. I have to do something now, So I know I said I'd wait, but I didn't know I don't think either of us knew it was going to be this long and this kind of just shitty letter about. I mean, I guess it's not a shitty. I mean, it's well written, but I mean, as well written as it is, when you're receiving it, not that it's happened to me, but I can imagine when you're receiving it off in the war-torn whatever Europe, you can't. It's not pleasant, no matter how pleasantly it's written, to get this your girlfriend when she promised to be there when you come back is I've decided I must move on with my life, which it's. I don't know why I'm commenting so much about this, but it makes sense. I mean, you understand, you can't just wait your entire life for this guy to come back. So the movie sets up the whole movie basically with this letter, which is the triggering point, which causes basically the recipient of the letter to go crazy. He comes back, and this Rosemary's, getting all swanky with this guy in this gazebo. And, the first kill is pretty cool, and the music. Every time I watch this movie, I always think it's done by Jay Chataway. It sounds just like Jay Chataway, who would end up working with. Maybe it is under a different name, because he'd end up working with Zito again in Missing in Action. So maybe it is him. I don't know, but it sounds just like Jay Chataway. The music, And the opening kill and stuff like that is really cool and I love the pitchfork into the ground and taking the knife out of the boot, and so the opening kill is really great. It's a double impale with a pitchfork through these two people in this little gazebo thing. So the opening kill is really cool and moody and all this, and then you cut to whatever. I think this movie, just like Friday the 13th and so many others, say when they go to the present day, they say present day, which I don't know why they do that, because when you're watching it in 2014, it's not present day. Well, I don't know why they can't say so many years later, because that would work for any time, any subsequent year or decade you watch the movie again, because it's not present day, it's 2014, or if I watch it next year, it's 2015, etc. So then you cut to this, present day, which is 81 or whatever like that, and one thing I like about this movie is actually the guy who plays the deputy. I mean, he's kind of got that chiseled, whatever, handsome face. And I like the girl, that has the hots for him or whatever. I like them girl next door kind of girls in movies, and not just like the sluts. Like there's a couple of sluts in the movie who get killed. And one of them, like the blonde, who didn't last nearly as long in the movie as I would have liked. I mean, I think they got a good actress to play that part of that kind of the slut blonde who just dies, it seems like, in 20 minutes into the movie. So what's so funny about the couple, like the deputy and the blonde girl next door type, is that they have at least like 2 or 3 little spats or whatever you want to call it, where it's like he spills the drink on her dress, and then first he shows up and he dances with this slut and she's all mad, and then he finally comes over and he spills the drink on her dress and she's like, I'm mad again, and then later on he's like, okay, I'm gonna go to the cemetery, you can't come along, and then she's like, and then he's like, oh god, I'm never gonna get any if I keep pissing her off, and then she comes around and just gets in the Jeep, like, no talking, and then he's just like, they drive off. So it's just, I don't know why it's there. It's this very interesting, like, it never makes it in the movies unless it's a relationship kind of a movie, where it's like, it makes me, kind of like, oh, yeah, I forgot that's what relationships are like. Maybe they're not so great. And so it was just funny. overall, I'm afraid to say, and I don't want to, disappoint the Cookie Monster 70, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. I think 2 stars, surprisingly, at the end of the day for the Prowler. There's a lot of fun in it, but every time I watch it, I'm amazed at how much nothing there is in the movie as far as looking around. They go to this old general or whatever the hell his name is house, and they look around, and then they go to a cemetery, and I swear it seems like, I kind of forgot the movie already, but it seems like they go back to the same house they already spent like 10 minutes looking around in. That's where the movie ends, I think, or whatever. But for me, there's way too much what I call dead air, dead space in the movie. Now, don't get me wrong, like the whole premise is great, the killer and the costume is great, but so much of the movie feels like I don't know if it's his first time making a movie or not, but it feels like amateurish in the sense that it feels like they just don't know what the hell they're doing. And there's that goofy scene which is funny, like it should be funny. I mean, where he calls that fat guy, where Farley Granger's character is supposed to be staying, the sheriff, and it's funny, but it's like they should have. Oh man, it's like twice as long as it needs to be, that scene where the fat guy's like pretends to leave the room and just sets the phone down, and you just see him playing cards, and then you cut to the deputy on the other line going, like, just getting pissed off, and as a viewer you're getting pissed off too, and you're wondering why this scene is being dragged on so long. And the thing is, there's no other way to show the viewer what happens in this scene except for just letting it happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? In the sense of, you can't show this scene of this fat guy just making the cop wait on the phone while he's, pretends to go look and comes back without doing it. If you do a dissolve or whatever, you don't know how much time spent. But it's just like, maybe the joke didn't need to be done. I don't know why that is even there. I swear that scene is like 8 minutes long or 7, and like 5 of it. I guess it seems longer than it is, but and he's just playing cards, and you cut to the deputy on the phone, and he's showing playing cards, deputy on the phone, and then you cut back to the guy, and he's like, I mean, it's funny, but it lasts way too long. So that's an example for me of why it's only 2 stars. That kind of stuff, and also just looking around, I swear probably, oh gosh, it might be as much as 40% of the movie is creeping around, looking around stuff. And stuff, I can understand like creeping around, looking around, and have something happen, but it's like creeping around, looking around, and then no one's here. It's like there's no payoff. And it's just like, when they were writing it or making this movie, don't they understand that there might be people, I don't know, for multiple viewings, I can understand, like, for a first time viewing, like, it's suspenseful, like, looking around because you don't know what's going to happen. But if you want to watch this movie and over, it's like watching, like, a probably combined total of 15 or 20 minutes total of just looking around isn't very great. And let's just spoil it. Farley Granger's character, the sheriff, turned out to be this guy who is, of course, of the right age because he was in, rope and stuff like that. So he was of the right age to be this character, who actually was the disgruntled, soldier who ended up getting this letter from Rosemary. I think this movie, at one point, either that or in some other countries, is called Rosemary's Killer. There's a little insert in the DVD that shows a poster that says Rosemary's Killer, which isn't really that great of a title. And, the Prowler, when you think about it, the Prowler's really not that great of a title either, but there's something about it. It's like, it works, the Prowler. Because it's mentioned, by that one woman at the dance, that we have a Prowler prowling around, so that's probably where the title came from. I can put 2 and 2 together. So, yeah, one thing, having thought about it after I watched the movie, is like, why, I don't know, like, I guess, like Pamela Voorhees makes a little more sense. Like, it's more believable to have her just continue to kill counselors, even if they had nothing to do with her son's death, just because she's crazy in that aspect. But because this soldier got a letter from Rosemary, I don't see why he's got to kill people around that same area so many years later. Like, when don't you think, like, once you kill Rosemary and the lover, the movie should be over, really? Like, why? What? Maybe I missed it, but what sparked his, like, killing spree? Was it some anniversary or something of the? That's something I don't quite understand. Like, what sparked the killing spree, and why? These people have nothing to do with anything. These people that he's killing, they're just whatever, student sluts. And then he even kills that one woman who's like a teacher, supervisor. So I guess I don't know why he's killing, basically. Maybe I missed it. If I missed it, let me know in the comments why he's killing these people who have nothing to do with, like, the letter and stuff like that. But, like I say, not to repeat myself, but strongest points of this movie, definitely Tom Savini and his effects, which are amazing, but I don't know, I think I pretty much covered it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. It's very like overly simple. Oh, the Jeep. I'm a big, huge, like, Jeep fan, Jeep CJ6, CJ7 guy, and I don't know exactly what kind of Jeep's in the movie, but it's probably right off the set of Friday the 13th. I mean, it's like Steve Christie's Jeep, and I'm a Jeep guy, and it's got features of Jeep. I almost forgot to mention that. Ooh, gosh, speaking of the thing I almost forgot to mention, the end, the Carrie as in, like, the Brian De Palma Carrie-ish movie end of the Prowler is really, I was just like, wow, every time I watch it, because I never remember what the hell happens or why. It's because not much happens, I'm afraid to say, but the guy's in the shower, they've been hanging in the shower all night or whatever, or all day, and she opens up the shower and the corpse is there, and he's like, "Brah!" And his eyes open and it's just milky white, and he's like, "Brah!" And you're like, what the fuck? And then it turns out to be just like, we cut back to the guy, and it's just this corpse there, so she must have just imagined that, and it's just like, oh, it's just such a goofy way to end the movie. So that's feel free to Cookie Monster 70 to let me know what you think of the Prowler, either in the comments or by doing your own blasted review yourself. But for me, that's what the Prowler is. The kills are great, but for me, ultimately, it'd be nice if you could have more in the movie that's interesting than simply just the kill scenes. And also, if you're doing a movie so low budget, it seems like such a waste to go through all that trouble to make that period bit at the beginning with the cars and everything like that. And I appreciate it, I guess, but I don't know. Prowler just doesn't rub me exactly the right way, but there's nothing wrong with that. Thank you very much for watching.